My day was ruined by my mother's call, which I hadn't anticipated. I'm Tessa Morris, Prime Global Solutions' 38-year-old head of marketing. I had really begun to feel like I had my life together after my divorce from Mark last year. My work was flourishing, my flat was paid for, and I was finally taking care of myself. I was looking over the quarterly predictions when the phone rang. I grinned as Mom's name appeared on my screen. As soon as I responded, that smile disappeared. Without even introducing herself, she declared, "Your father and I will celebrate our 40th anniversary in 3 weeks, Tessa. Your Aunt Marge despises restaurants, so we're hosting it at home. What you will offer us is decided by us." I leaned back in my office chair and let out a deep sigh. A Christmas vacation to Hawaii was the last time they decided on a present. After helping me through college, I told myself they earned the more than $5,000 I spent on that vacation. "What is it this time, Mom?" I rubbed my temple and inquired. She remarked nonchalantly, "A country house," as if she were requesting a box of chocolates. "I'm sorry, what?" I almost dropped my phone. "I think I misheard you. A country house," she said emphatically again. "Todd, Melanie, your father, and I discussed it. You should purchase us a rural home where we can all unwind because you have a decent salary, are single, and paid off your flat. Melanie and her family, Todd and his wife and children, and your father and myself." My parents had always preferred my younger siblings, Todd and Melanie. Despite my professional achievement, they were somehow more deserving of my parents' praise since they had married young and had children straight immediately. "Mom." It was difficult for me to find non-obscene wording. "That is a significant cost. I can't just purchase a home." I objected, but she went on, "Well, we've already looked at some properties. There's a nice one about an hour outside the city." I adamantly stated, "Mom, we need to talk about this in person. I'll come over tomorrow evening." With a harsh tone, she added, "There's nothing to discuss, Tessa, but it's okay if you want to speak. Come over at 6 o'clock. Before I could reply, she hung up. My hands trembled a little as I gaped at my phone in shock. It was breathtakingly audacious. Without even asking me, they suddenly decided that I should buy them a house for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I was unable to concentrate on my work for the remainder of the day. I kept thinking about what my family expected of me. I had always been giving to them, perhaps too much. I send my parents $1,000 a month for utilities. I covered Melanie's children's preschool tuition. I had paid for Todd's son's pricey prescription drugs last month, and I frequently assisted him with auto maintenance. It wasn't much better the next day. I continued to practice my response to them. Surely, they'd understand once I explained that buying a house was completely unreasonable. I left work early, my stomach in knots as I drove to my parents' suburban home. When I arrived, I was surprised to find Todd's and Melanie's cars already there. I hadn't expected an ambush. Mom opened the door with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Dad sat in his recliner, nodding curtly at me instead of his usual bear hug. Todd and Melanie were on the couch, both looking at me with expectant expressions. "Hi everyone," I said, trying to keep my voice light. I noticed they hadn't set a place for me at the dinner table, though they'd clearly just eaten. "I thought we could talk about the anniversary gift." Mom motioned for me to sit in the armchair across from Dad. No one offered me a drink or asked about my day. "Look," I started, "I've been thinking about the anniversary gift. I can contribute $25,000. If Todd and Melanie add what they can, we could get you both a new car instead. Your Camry is getting pretty old." The silence that followed was deafening. Todd and Melanie exchanged glances. "We can't contribute large sums," Todd finally said. "We have families. Kids." "Unlike you." Melanie nodded. "We've already pitched in together for our gift. We agreed you'd get the country house. You'd use it too, Tessa," she added, as if that made it better. "You could come out on weekends. It would be great." "I don't have money for a country house," I said slowly, trying to stay calm. "You could take out a mortgage," Mom suggested, like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. "With your salary, you'd qualify easily." I felt like I was in some bizarre dream. Had my family always been this entitled? This conversation isn't going anywhere, I said, standing up. I'll decide on my own what gift I'll give. I need to go. No one tried to stop me as I headed for the door. As I stepped outside, Mom called after me. You'll regret this, Tessa. The drive home was a blur. By the time I reached my apartment, I was shaking with anger. I made myself some strong mint tea and sat on my balcony, trying to calm down. What had happened to my family? When had I become nothing more than an ATM to them? The more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't a new development. I'd been financing their lifestyles for years, and they'd grown to expect it. Now I was selfish for not buying them a house? The weeks after that disastrous family meeting passed in complete silence. No calls from Mom, no texts from Dad, not even the usual requests for money from Todd or Melanie. At first, the silence was a relief. Then it became unsettling. Never in my adult life had I gone so long without my family asking for something. They're probably just giving you space, my friend Rachel said over lunch. Or maybe they realized how unreasonable they were being. You don't know my family, I replied, picking up my salad. This is the calm before the storm. As my parents' anniversary approached, I decided I'd still give them something generous. Not a country house, obviously, but a check for $15,000 seemed appropriate. They could put it toward whatever they wanted, even a down payment on that house if they were serious about it. The more I thought about it, the more I felt I was being reasonable. What wasn't reasonable was that I never received an invitation to the anniversary celebration. No text, no call, not even a formal invitation in the mail. I knew when and where it would be 6 p.m. at their house on the 18th because they'd mentioned it before. I assumed I was still expected to attend, invitation or not. 2 days before the anniversary, my phone rang. It was Aunt Claire, Dad's cousin. We'd always gotten along well, though we didn't talk often. Tessa, are you free for coffee this afternoon? She asked. I need to talk to you about something. How about Cafe Luna at 3? I arrived at the cafe early, ordering a cappuccino while I waited. Claire walked in a few minutes later, her expression grim, as she sat down across from me. I was at your parents' house yesterday, she began without preamble. I overheard something I think you should know about. My stomach tightened. What is it? Claire leaned forward. They're planning to humiliate you at the anniversary. They've moved the celebration time up by 2 hours to 4 p.m. instead of 6. They haven't told you, so you'll show up late to find the door locked. I stared at her, my cappuccino forgotten. You can't be serious. I wish I wasn't. Your mother was quite proud of the plan. Your siblings are in on it too. Claire shook her head. I told your father I think it's despicable, but he just said you deserve it, for being selfish. I've decided not to attend. I can't support this kind of behavior. Thank you for telling me, I said quietly, my mind racing. I appreciate it. What will you do? Claire asked. I don't know yet, but by the time I got home, I knew exactly what I would do. The next day, I called in sick to work. I needed time to prepare my response to my family's ridiculous scheme. First, I logged into my banking app and canceled all recurring transfers to my parents. Screenshot. Print. Next, I compiled a spreadsheet of every cent I'd given my family over the past 5 years, the monthly transfers, the Hawaii trip, Todd's car repairs, Melanie's child care costs, the emergency medical bills I'd covered. The total shocked even me, $63 for 27. Screenshot. Print. I found a beautiful gift box in my closet, left over from Christmas. I lined it with tissue paper and placed the printouts inside. Then I wrote a note. Dear family, I had planned to give you $15,000 for your anniversary. Instead, I'm giving you this, a complete end to my financial support. The attached documents show I've already given you over $60,000 in recent years. That seems sufficient. From this day forward, I will no longer fund your lifestyles. In fact, I will no longer be part of your lives at all. This is my gift to myself. Goodbye. Tessa. I folded the note, placed it on top of the printouts, and closed the box. I wrapped it in elegant silver paper and tied it with a blue ribbon. It looked beautiful, the perfect Trojan horse. On the day of the anniversary, I drove to my parents' house at 5:45 p.m. Just as Claire had warned, cars filled the driveway and lined the street. The celebration was clearly well underway. I parked a little distance from the house and waited in my car for 15 minutes, steeling myself for what I was about to do. At 6 p.m., I walked up to the front door. Sure enough, there was a handwritten sign. "Welcome to our 40th anniversary. Everyone is welcome except Tessa." Despite expecting it, the sign hit me harder than I'd anticipated. These were the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. Instead, they'd planned this childish, cruel exclusion because I wouldn't buy them a house. I didn't knock or try to enter. I simply placed my gift box on the welcome mat, rang the doorbell, and walked away. I heard the door open behind me as I reached my car, but I didn't look back. I drove away with a strange mix of grief and liberation washing over me. By the time I got home, my phone was blowing up. 6 missed calls from Mom, 4 from Dad, texts from both Todd and Melanie. It was just a joke. "Come back. Mom, we need to talk about this." "Dad, you're overreacting." Todd, "Mom says they need money for dental work next month." Melanie, I read each message with growing disbelief. Even now, they didn't get it. Even now, my family was asking for money. I blocked all their numbers without replying, then poured myself a glass of wine and stood on my balcony, watching the sunset. For the first time in years, I felt the weight of obligation lifting from my shoulders. I was done being their personal bank. I was done prioritizing their needs over my own. I was done. The morning after my parents' anniversary, I woke up with a strange sense of calm. I'd expected to feel guilt or regret, but instead, I felt lighter. Still, I knew my family wouldn't give up easily. They'd try to find ways to reach me, to pull me back into their orbit of financial dependency. I needed to be prepared. First, I called down to my building's concierge. "Good morning, Miguel. This is Tessa from 14B. I need to update my visitor policy." Of course. My parents, brother, and sister are not to be allowed into the building under any circumstances. Their names are Richard and Linda Morris, Todd Morris, and Melanie Becker. I'll make a note in the system and inform the other concierges. Next, I called my office's security team and made the same request. Then I emailed my boss, explaining that I might have some family members trying to cause disruptions at work. Sandra had always been understanding, and her response was immediate. "Security will handle it. Let me know if you need anything else." By lunchtime, I blocked my family on every social media platform and changed my email settings to automatically delete messages from their addresses. It felt extreme, but necessary. I knew from experience how persistent they could be when money was involved. I wasn't wrong. That very afternoon, my concierge called up. "Ms. Morris, your parents are here, insisting they need to speak with you. I've told them about the visitor restriction, but they're making quite a scene." I sighed. "Tell them if they don't leave, you'll call the police." 2 days later, Todd tried to get into my office building. Security turned him away. The day after that, Melanie showed up at my favorite coffee shop. She must have been watching for me. I spotted her before she saw me and left immediately. They're relentless, I told Rachel over the phone that night. It's like they think if they keep pushing, I'll crack and start supporting them again. "They probably do think that," Rachel replied. "You've always given in before." She was right. For years, whenever my family pressured me, I'd eventually cave. This time was different. The sign on the door had been a turning point, concrete proof that they saw me as nothing more than a resource to exploit. A week after the anniversary, Aunt Claire called. "I thought you should know what's happening," she said. "Your mother is furious. She's been telling everyone that you abandoned the family. But some of us have noticed that she and your father have been making some adjustments." "What kind of adjustments?" I asked. "Your mother took a part-time job at the mall, first time she's worked in 20 years. and your father sold his golf club membership. I felt a twinge of satisfaction. They're feeling the pinch without my money. Todd and Melanie are struggling too, Claire continued. Apparently you were helping them with more than they've admitted to the rest of the family. Are they telling people I should buy them a country house? Claire laughed. No. They seem to have dropped that particular demand. Now they're just saying you abandoned them without cause. Of course they are, I muttered. For what it's worth, I've told anyone who will listen exactly what happened. Most people think they were out of line. Thanks, Claire. You're the only one in the family I still want to talk to. After that call, my relatives started reaching out one by one, my cousin Derek, my uncle Phil, even my grandmother. All with the same message. Your parents miss you. Can't you work things out? I gave them all the same answer. When they apologize sincerely and stop expecting me to fund their lifestyle, we can talk about rebuilding our relationship. None of them called back. As weeks turned into months, the attempts to contact me became less frequent. My family began to accept that I was serious about my boundaries. Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening. I was discovering who I was without the constant drain of family obligations. With the extra money I was saving, I booked a 2-week vacation to Portugal, somewhere I'd always wanted to visit but had never prioritized because vacation funds usually went to helping my family. I joined a pottery class on Wednesday nights, something I'd been interested in for years, but never had time for between work and family demands. Most significantly, I started dating again. After my divorce from Mark, I'd convinced myself I was better off alone. The truth was, I'd been too busy taking care of my family to put energy into my romantic life. I met Alex at my pottery class. He was terrible at making pots. His first attempt looked more like a deflated football than a bowl, but he made me laugh. After class, he asked if I wanted to grab coffee. I should warn you, he said as we settled at a cafe table, I'm not just bad at pottery, I'm bad at most artistic endeavors. But I keep trying new things anyway. I smiled. I admire that. I've spent too many years not trying new things. Our coffee date turned into dinner. Dinner turned into weekend hikes. Soon, we were seeing each other regularly. Alex was different from anyone I'd dated before, thoughtful, independent, and completely undemanding. He never asked me for anything except my time and attention. One evening, about 3 months after I'd cut off my family, Alex and I were cooking dinner at my apartment when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but I answered anyway. Hello. Tessa. It's Mom. I nearly dropped the phone. She must have been calling from a friend's number to get past my blocks. I have nothing to say to you, I said coldly, preparing to hang up. Wait, she cried. Please just listen. We're struggling, Tessa. The utilities are past due, and your father's prescription costs went up. We need your help. I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar pull of guilt. For a moment, I almost wavered. Mom, I spent years helping you all. Years. And you repaid me by demanding I buy you a house, then trying to humiliate me when I refused. I'm done. But we're family, she insisted, her voice breaking. Family helps family. Yes, they do, I agreed. But it goes both ways. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up and blocked the new number. Alex looked at me questioningly. Everything okay? I took a deep breath. It will be. That was my mother. We're estranged. Did you want to talk about it? I surprised myself by nodding. Actually, I think I do. That night, I told Alex everything. The country house demand. The anniversary ambush. The years of financial drain. He listened without interrupting, his expression shifting between disbelief and sympathy. I've never heard anything like it, he said when I finished. They really expected you to buy them a house? And take out a mortgage to do it, I added, shaking my head. Looking back, I can see they've been using me for years. I was just too caught up in being the good daughter to notice. What will you do if they keep trying to contact you? I sighed, leaning back against the couch. Keep blocking them, I guess. I'm not ready to let them back into my life. Maybe I never will be. Over the next few weeks, my mother tried calling from 3 more unknown numbers. Each time, I hung up and blocked the number. My father sent a letter to my office, which I returned unopened. Todd showed up at my pottery class one evening. He must have followed me there, but I walked out before he could approach me. Each attempt at contact only strengthened my resolve. "You seem different," Sander commented during our monthly review meeting at work. "More focused. More confident. Whatever changes you've made in your personal life, they're reflecting positively on your work." She was right. Without the constant stress of my family's demands, I was thriving professionally. My team had just landed 2 major accounts, and I was being considered for a promotion to VP of Marketing. "I've made some difficult but necessary decisions," I told her. "Set some boundaries that were long overdue." "Well, keep it up," she said with an approving nod. "The executive team has noticed." 6 months after cutting ties with my family, I took Alex to Portugal with me. We spent 2 glorious weeks exploring historic cities, lounging on beaches, and eating incredible food. I didn't check my work email once. I didn't worry about what emergencies might be happening back home. I was fully present, fully engaged with the experience. As we walked along the beach under a star-filled sky, I realized I was happy. Not just temporarily pleased or briefly content, but deeply, fundamentally happy. I'd broken free from the toxic dynamic that had defined so much of my adult life, and in doing so, I discovered who I really was. When we returned home, a familiar anxiety began to creep back. My parents' attempts to contact me had lessened, but they hadn't stopped entirely. I was constantly bracing for the next ambush, the next guilt trip. "You need to talk to someone professional about this," Rachel suggested over brunch one Sunday. "A therapist could help you process everything and move forward." I was skeptical at first. I'd always prided myself on being self-sufficient, on handling my problems alone. But Rachel was persistent, and eventually, I made an appointment with a therapist she recommended. Dr. Levine was a woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner that immediately put me at ease. During our first session, I found myself pouring out everything, not just the country house incident, but years of feeling like I was never good enough, never doing enough for my family. "What you're describing is financial abuse," she said, after listening carefully. "Your family was exploiting you economically. And when you refused their increasingly unreasonable demands, they tried to punish you emotionally." "Financial abuse," I repeated, surprised by the term. "I thought that was something that happened in marriages." "It can happen in any relationship where there's a power dynamic," she explained. "In your case, they wielded emotional power, the threat of withholding love and approval, to extract financial resources from you." Something clicked into place as she spoke. I wasn't being selfish by cutting them off. I was protecting myself from abuse. Over the next few months, therapy helped me process my guilt and anger. I learned to recognize the manipulation tactics my family had used, and I began to understand why I'd been so susceptible to them. Most importantly, I learned that I didn't need to feel responsible for my family's financial well-being. They were adults who had made their own choices. Around the 1-year mark of my family estrangement, Aunt Claire called with news. "Your mother quit her job at the mall," she told me. "Your father's fixed up the old Camry instead of buying a new car. Todd moved to a smaller apartment, and Melanie's husband took a second job." "Are they still bad-mouthing me to everyone?" I asked. Claire hesitated. "Less than before. I think they're starting to realize how much they depended on you. Your mother even admitted to me that asking for the country house was, perhaps, too much." I gave a snort. "Perhaps." Claire said, "It's not an apology, but it's the closest thing I've heard to one." I took a while to react to this revelation. I decided to keep it to myself and bring it up with Dr. Levine during our upcoming appointment. She questioned, "Do you want to reconnect with them?" I gave this great thought. "Not just yet. Perhaps never on the same terms as previously." I may think about having restricted contact if they truly apologized and respected my limits moving ahead. However, I refuse to return to serving as their ATM. She gave an encouraging nod. That sounds like a healthy position, she said. That night, as twilight was falling, Alex and I sat on my balcony and watched the city lights come on. He had lately moved some of his belongings into my flat, and we had been dating for over 9 months. We were moving towards cohabitation, even if it wasn't yet formal. My aunt says my family is struggling to adjust to life without my financial support, I stated to him. How do you feel about that? Thinking, I took a drink of wine. To be honest, vindicated. For so long, they took me for granted. They are now learning that decisions have repercussions. What if they say they're sorry? Put an effort to put things right. I don't know, I said. I doubt that I will ever be able to trust them again. However, I've discovered this year that I don't have to make all the decisions at once. I'm free to take my time. Observe my feelings as more time goes by. Alex squeezed my hand and grinned. That's the Tessa I know and love, taking care of herself first. Love. Even though he had said it in passing, it lingered between us. I returned his smile, experiencing that intense joy once more. I said, I love you too, to you. I felt at ease with my choices as I gazed out over the metropolitan skyline. I had established limits, shielded myself from people who would drain me, and made room for genuine love and connection. Yes, my money account was healthier, but my heart was healthier, and that was more significant.